to the West Asia Post. I am your host, Ghadi Francis, coming to you from Beirut, Lebanon. And this is another episode of WION's weekly show, where we bring you all things new from West Asia. The world is watching and anticipating whether or not the US and Iran will reach a nuclear deal. Now, Iran has set its red lines, and also the West. Before we dive into the deep discussion and the technicalities and the details of a possible nuclear deal, let's talk about what's been making the headlines across the region in the past week. The Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has set some non-negotiables on the table. He said Iran will not dismantle its uranium centrifuges, will not stop its missile program, and as the US increases its presence in West Asia with warships and so on, Iran, according to reports, is increasing and fortifying its underground nuclear facilities. We tell you more.
For the last 2 weeks, the US and Iran have been involved in high-stakes nuclear talks. US President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, has told Iran to dismantle its uranium enrichment program. But Iran has set its deadlines. Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, says Iran will neither dismantle its uranium centrifuges nor its missile program. Reports suggest Iran is ringing two deeply buried tunnel complexes with a massive security perimeter linked to its main nuclear complex. The Institute for Science and International Security says that for several years, satellite images have been indicating under construction tunnel complexes beneath Mount Kolang Gazla. Tehran has reportedly barred access to the tunnels to inspectors of the UN International Atomic Energy Agency monitoring its nuclear program. UN Atomic Watchdog Chief, who visited Tehran last week, has asked Iran to explain the tunnels built around nuclear sites. Iran, on the other hand, says uranium centrifuges will be assembled in one complex in place of a facility at the nearby Natanz plant, the centerpiece of its nuclear program. However, the Institute report says Iran complexes are being built at depths much greater than Iran's deeply buried uranium enrichment facility at Fordo, near the holy city of Qom. The north side of the perimeter joins Natanz plant's security ring. The ongoing construction at the complexes appears to underscore Tehran's rejection of demands that any talks with the US should lead to the total dismantlement of its nuclear program. The fortification also comes at a time when US is deploying its stealth bombers and war machines in West Asia. Tehran's enemy, Israel, has not ruled out its plan to attack Tehran's nuclear sites. Israeli officials have vowed to prevent Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, and Netanyahu has insisted that any negotiation with Iran must lead to the complete dismantling of its nuclear program.
The regime of terror in Iran is a threat to our destiny, to our very existence, and to not only our fate, but the fate of all humanity.
Quoting Israeli sources, Reuters says Israel has proposed to the Trump administration a series of options to attack Iran's facilities, including some with late spring and summer timelines. The plans include a combination of airstrikes and commando operations that vary in severity and could set back Tehran's ability to weaponize its nuclear program. Western countries have long accused Iran of seeking to acquire nuclear weapons, an allegation Tehran has consistently denied, insisting that its program is for peaceful civilian purposes. With US President Donald Trump threatening to bomb Iran if it doesn't play by Washington's rules and Tehran's unwillingness to scale down on its military preparedness, a lot is at stake.
Iraq has always been accused of funneling weapons through Iran, but Iraq has always been denying these accusations. Now in the following report, we tell you more about Iraq's exhibition of defense. Take a look.
Everything you see in front of you at this exhibition is currently a requirement of the Iraqi Ministry of Defense and the Iraqi Ministry of Interior. This includes a camera produced in Iraq that is an uncooled thermal one with a 300 mm lens, global radar, and a complete and comprehensive BAI system. All these components are assembled based on the requirements of Iraq's ministries.
So behind us, we have now joined forces with 4 major companies from the U.S. and from the United Kingdom in order to provide us security resources for the government of Iraq. In addition to the border forces, to the military Ministry of Defense, for the intelligence services, and the capability sets that we in the United States and with the government UK trying to support and help them.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under growing pressure from the families of the hostages, his war cabinet, and the Shin Bet. But regardless, he is still continuing the war on Gaza. Now, why is Benjamin Netanyahu never stopping the war on Gaza, regardless of this pressure? We tell you.
Demonstrations in the heart of Israel, covered in chains and red paint symbolizing blood. Protesters called for an end to the Gaza war and the release of hostages. The demonstrators include former Israeli soldiers who joined relatives of Matan Angrest, an Israeli soldier who is still in Hamas's captivity.
We are here today to be the cry of my brother, who has been rotting and suffering for over 550 days. My brother and 59 other hostages are now in Hamas's hell. We have no feelings left in our hearts. We are so broken and in pain. I am so ashamed that I've reached a point where I'm standing here today wearing my brother's clothes from the kidnapping just to try and make something move.
Benjamin Netanyahu's administration is under increasing pressure at home over his decision to continue fighting in Gaza. Israel's prime minister said Hamas has rejected Israel's latest proposal to free half the hostages in return for another temporary truce. He said Israel's only option is to fight the war.
I have ordered the IDF to respond firmly and further increase the pressure on Hamas. We are in the war of rebirth, the war on 7 fronts. This war has very heavy prices, because any such loss is a world in and of itself. But we, as people who desire life, have no choice but to continue fighting for our very existence until victory.
Hamas is firm on its stance. It says it will only free the remaining hostages in return for an Israeli withdrawal and a lasting ceasefire. As a part of its effort to instill some stability in the war-torn enclave, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas called on Hamas to lay down its weapons.
On the basis of the unity of law, the unity of institutions, the unity of legitimate weapons, and the unity of political decision-making, Hamas must by necessity end its control over Gaza and hand over Gaza responsibilities and hand over its arms to the Palestinian Authority. There is no self-respecting country has two weapons. Look at Lebanon and Hezbollah. At the end of it, it's the state. There is no country that allows two decisions, two sovereigns and two weapons and two armies. This is not a country. And transform into a political party.
While Abbas has previously called on Hamas to put its forces under the PA's control, he has not done so since the start of the war in Gaza. Diplomatic efforts to craft a plan for Gaza's future are now focused on pushing aside Hamas. However, Israel has also categorically stated the Palestinian Authority's governance in Gaza. Hamas ousted the Palestinian Authority, which now exercises limited control over the occupied West Bank after the 2007 civil war. With Hamas unwilling to give up its arms and Israel refusing to halt its fire, the prospects of attaining a ceasefire in Gaza look remote.
Since Joseph Aoun took oath as Lebanon's new president, he vowed the state monopoly over arms in the country. Now, the only armed group that retained its weapons after the Israeli occupation of Lebanon is Hezbollah. Hezbollah's chief, Naim Qassem, says this weapon will not be handed until the Israelis stop invading Lebanon. He has set some red lines. We tell you more in this report.
The Hezbollah group is resisting pressure from Lebanon and the United States to lay down its weapons. Hours after Israeli warplanes struck its targets in Lebanon, the group laid down conditions for disarmament.
Israel should first withdraw and halt its attacks, including flying in the Lebanese airspace, as this would be an important step toward initiating discussions on national defense strategy.
Qassem claims Hezbollah has fulfilled its commitment in the US-brokered ceasefire that halted fighting in Hezbollah's current 14-month war with Israel. Despite the truce, Israel has been targeting what it calls Hezbollah holdouts in southern Lebanon. On Tuesday, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said Israeli strikes have killed at least 71 civilians, including 14 women and 9 children, since the ceasefire. Ever since he took over as Lebanon's president, Joseph Aoun has pledged to ensure state monopoly over Hezbollah's weapons. But in the wake of Israel's near-daily strikes, Aoun is now calling the disarmament a delicate matter.
Let us handle the matter disarming Hezbollah with consideration and responsibility, because it is a sensitive and delicate issue that is fundamental to preserving civil peace.
Under the terms of the ceasefire, Hezbollah needed to pull out from parts of southern Lebanon and give up military positions south of the Litani River. Israeli forces, on the other hand, had to pull back into their country. So far, Israel's bombardment has killed over 4,000 people and caused destruction running to $11 billion in Lebanon. The Lebanese government is now looking for Western and Arab backers to fund reconstruction in the country. But the West says that Hezbollah the only group that has retained arms in the country's civil war, needs to disarm first, which brings Hezbollah at the crossroads. On the one hand, it has promised to rebuild southern Lebanon that has suffered massive destruction due to its war with Israel. On the other, it is confronted with its stated role as the resistance against Israeli occupation. The question now is how and when will Lebanon and Hezbollah come to terms over a new defense strategy for the country.
Last week, we told you about a terror plot in Jordan. Now, Jordan accused the Muslim Brotherhood in the country of doing that. Now, who's the Muslim Brotherhood? And what's their problem in Jordan? We tell you more in this report.
One of the most stable countries in West Asia, Jordan over the last 2 weeks has been facing the winds of change and uncertainty. This week, Jordan banned the opposition Muslim Brotherhood.
Banning all activities of the so-called dissolved Muslim Brotherhood and considering any activity of any kind a violation of the law subject to legal accountability.
Jordan's interior minister says the members of the group were involved in a sabotage plot. There was no immediate comment from the Brotherhood that has operated legally in Jordan for decades. Fryer says all the activities of the group are banned and promotion of its ideology will be held accountable under law. The Muslim Brotherhood is one of the Arab world's oldest and most influential Islamist movements. While it has denied links to the alleged plot, it however admitted that members may have engaged in an individual capacity in arms smuggling to Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Most Arab countries have outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, calling it a dangerous terrorist group that should be crushed. The movement's political arm in Jordan, the Islamic Action Front, became the largest political grouping in parliament after elections last September, although most seats are still held by supporters of the government. In the last 2 years, Jordan has been tightening restrictions on the Brotherhood, forbidding some of its activities and arresting vocal anti-government dissenters. International rights groups say that, in the last 4 years, Jordanian authorities have intensified persecution and harassment of political opponents and ordinary citizens. The Jordanian government says it tolerates public speech that does not incite violence.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this week. The two countries have agreed in terms of defense and energy. We tell you more in this report.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Jeddah this week. Both leaders reviewed progress under the Council since their last meeting in September 2023, when India hosted the G20 summit in New Delhi. Over the years, Saudi Arabia has been one of the top exporters of petroleum to India. Both nations are now looking forward to collaborating on defense, tourism, and cultural ministries. The leaders agreed to create a high-level task force to promote investment flows between the two countries in 2024. The task force works to maintain the GDP of both nations across various fields. These include energy, petrochemicals, infrastructure, technology, fintech, digital infrastructure, telecommunications, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, and health. Both nations are further deepening their energy ties by establishing 2 joint refineries and are consistently working on renewable energy sector. In financial year 23-24, the total trade volume between India and Saudi Arabia reached $43 billion. India's imports from Saudi Arabia amounted to $31.42 billion, while exports to Saudi Arabia were worth $11.56 billion. India is Saudi Arabia's second largest trading partner. New Delhi's rapidly developing economy relies heavily on petroleum imports, with Saudi Arabia ranked as its third largest supplier. The kingdom is also home to more than 2 million Indian nationals who have long played a pivotal role in its labor market, helping construct many of the country's mega projects while sending billions of dollars in remittances back home each year.
Despite the war, the death, the destruction, all types of trauma, Palestinians teach life every day. Let's tell you about this dance squad in Gaza. Take a look.
We want to deliver our message to the world that we have the right to live like any child or human. We want to deliver our message to the world that we want to achieve our dreams. We are breakdancers.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I am Ghadi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet as we yield the power of tokenization only on WION.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
Take a drop of water, sir, please. उसने बोला कि ये शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी.
I say to the whole world, India will identify, track, and punish every terrorist